It's shocking but true. 60% of American children are exposed to potentially traumatic events like violence, drug use, or crime. These experiences can have devastating, long-lasting effects on kids.
Trauma can have a negative impact on a child as well as the child's family.
It impedes their ability to learn and to be successful in the classroom.
Inability to focus. They may be tired considering if the situation might have happened at 3 o'clock in the morning. So it's difficult for them to build trust, and they're constantly on a high alert. They're afraid that something may happen to them.
A vast majority of our calls have children at them, a lot of them.
They could be domestic violence. They could be a parent that overdosed that the child witnessed, a shooting in the neighborhood that's now frightened the child. There are just a number of different types of calls that a child can be exposed to trauma.
Trauma can have long-term effects on children, making them at risk for future problems like skipping school, failing to graduate, and getting into trouble themselves. Too often, the cycle of trauma repeats because it goes unrecognized and no one intervenes. That's where Handle with Care comes in. Handle with Care empowers the community to unite with the goal of protecting traumatized kids so they can heal and thrive.
Handle with Care is a simple but effective collaborative model to reduce the effects of trauma on children. We open the lines of communication between the first responders who are there when the trauma occurs and also those who are responsible for the learning of the students in the schools.
Here's an example of how it works. Police or other first responders are dispatched to a potentially traumatizing situation in the community. If a child is present, police identify the child and generate a Handle with Care notice.
The deputy just has to fill out a very simple form with the child's name, their date of birth, and the school they attend, and then just basically hit send on their computer.
And a message is sent to the school or care provider that simply says, Janie Smith, Handle with Care. That's it. To protect the family's privacy, no other details about the student or the incident are sent.
When our staff receives the notice, they just make sure they have a heads up first of all, and they're aware. And then they observe, and they make sure that the student isn't struggling or having any issues.
And that child will show up to school the next day and could be tired, could be combative, whatever the case may be.
If they notice that there are any issues going on, that's when they might intervene and say, hey, would you like to go to the nurse's office, lay down for a little bit, or maybe we could just postpone that project for a while.
The student can then be connected to mental health care and other services.
So what we're trying to do is recognize that discipline is not always the best response to behavior in a child, because behavior in a child could be a form of communication of the need for help.
If we can recognize that that child is just going through that traumatic event and give that child some quiet time and redirect, it's going to change the dynamics between the school and that child, and the child may be more successful in the future.
The Handle with Care model helps create better outcomes for children exposed to trauma.
At its most basic, Handle with Care is about changing the paradigm in communities to really focus on children as the future of the health and wellness of any community.
One of our goals was to catch children who may be falling through the cracks, children that we wouldn't have had our eyes on previously. And what we found, especially at the beginning, was that we're doing just that, and we're able to respond to those children and potentially their families and offer them the services that they need.
We're able to help them process the traumatic experience that they've gone to so that they can continue to be productive not only in the school system but in the community upon adulthood.
There's not that much work to it, and it's working. I mean, it's obviously helping the children.
So how can you get started with Handle with Care in your community?
Once a community has decided to adopt the Handle with Care model, all they need to do is reach out to Handle with Care Florida, and we will walk you through the process.
Handle with Care Florida offers free guidance, mentoring, sample documents, everything you need to implement the Handle with Care model. Stakeholders are trained by experts on trauma-responsive care. There is no fee. Your community just needs to show a willingness to commit the time and talent needed to work together and protect kids. At a minimum, 3 key stakeholders must be on board: law enforcement, the school system, and child protective services. but the potential for partnership is unlimited.
These are our kids, and each of us needs to understand what may be happening out there in order for us to step up and be able to help them.
The children of our community are the future, and we need to protect them.
It's going to be impactful, and it's going to be far-reaching when we all work together to do that.
Handle with Care helps build a better future for vulnerable children and ultimately the entire community.
Handle with Care works. It has the power to transform individual lives, families, and communities as a whole.
I really encourage any community that says they care about children to really look at the Handle with Care initiative and implement this initiative in their community.
Start building that future in your community. Contact Handle with Care Florida to get started.